Oh, I know. What can I do for you?
Well, my most immediate concern is that I have a fear of flying. And I have to fly back to Chicago. Before I came down to see you, I had a dream that you hypnotized me. And you helped me work on my fear of flying in my dream. It was also associated with a loss of my sister and my grandmother, my Danish grandmother, who is now 96 and dying. But somehow the two were associated in the dream and I didn't understand it.
Why the fear of flying?
I've never been able to understand it. I just become very frightened. And I'm also frightened about a lot of things in my life. I don't think it's just isolated to this, but I get frightened about, I've had a lot of, since I started my PhD, I've had a lot of psychosomatic problems. And one thing after another. And I think I'm frightened about a lot of things.
My attitude about pride is quite different than yours. Would you like to hear about it?
Yes.
About a mile and a half from where I lived on the farm, a man had hanged himself in the woods, in a woodlot. And all the farmers around there are afraid to drive through the woodlot at night, 3-mile detour, and go through that woods. And something happened out of darkness. I didn't like that fear. I waited until a very dark, cloudy night, and I proceeded to walk that mile and a half through that woodlot, step by step, neither hastening my pace nor slowing it. And of course, when I entered the woodlot, there were the night predators rustling through the leaves. It was hair-raising. I walked all the way through, turned around, walked back through, all the way back home, and never again was I ever really afraid of anything. One thing that still makes me afraid, and I enjoy it. For some reason, I don't know why, the roar of a tiger had a frightening effect on me. Now, I won't go to the zoo unless I visit the tiger and hear him roar. You know, I like that experience of being afraid. I think life is incomplete if you don't experience all the emotions. I'm not willing to put myself purposely in danger, but I don't mind being afraid. It's a charming experience. And I think it'd be a bad thing if I didn't know what cold was, without knowing what hunger was, without knowing what fatigue was. I want all of the experiences of life.
Mm-hmm. Do you think there's any connection, does it make any sense that there'd be connection between that and psychosomatic problems?
Most people don't like to be afraid, so they try to convert their fear into a psychosomatic complaint.
Which makes me afraid.
And I think it's much better to have fear without psychosomatic complaints being developed to increase the difficulty.
Mm-hmm. Because the psychosomatic problems create a whole other kind of fear that something's very wrong.
Now, PhD candidates are very likely to develop a lot of psychosomatic complaints. And my comforting statement to them is, all you can do is your best. And as far as your best, no matter how perfect it is, somebody can poop out of a panel that examines you can fail you. That's a risk you have to take.
Some nincompoop, right.
So why worry about it? What's going to happen is going to happen. At Wayne County Hospital, I saw so many doctors angry, jealous, resentful, full of psychosomatic complaints. If someone got promoted, they didn't. And hell with that. Why add those things? Either you are going to be promoted or you're not. I think of Joe. Opening came for a senior position. And Joe wanted it. And most seniority. He had the advantage of age, too. And the man who was best qualified had only a couple of years experience. Joe had more than 10 or 12. And Joe wanted to make certain that he got the promotion. And so Joe declared that there were several other candidates too. Joe declared this promotion is going to be voted on fair and square. That way he was certain he'd get the most votes. And I tried to discourage Joe from that voting process. I said, you might not get the greater number of votes. He said, oh yes, I will. Now, I discouraged him, and Louis discouraged him. So when the vote was taken, he marked the really good candidate number 1. And Joe, we gave the lowest possible vote. Gave him position 5. That was 10 points. And Ed got Ed got all the number 2 votes. We got our number 1 vote. And Joe got our 5 votes for each. Got 10 points. And then the fewest points got the job.
Oh, like Joe got tricked.
Yeah. Yeah, another time, 3 positions were coming up at intervals of 2 months. I knew about it. And I announced the first position was coming up. And Eva, a least qualified person, demanded that she be given that appointment. So I gave it to her. The other two resented that fact. Second appointment came up. One with the greatest seniority demanded it. So I gave it to that person. Those two appointments were dead ends. The third appointment was for a much higher salary and had the opportunity for advancement. Eva and Bessie had locked themselves into dead ends.
Mm-hmm. And they were least qualified for the third position.
They were at least qualified for the third position. They asked me why I hadn't warned them about the third position coming up.
They wouldn't have believed you.
I pointed out to them, you can check on the facts yourself. I didn't really know that three positions were going to come up because there's no proof of it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was going to be a move to establish some new changes. So I got rid of Eva and Bessie. Gave Morris the job that he really deserved.
And even Bessie probably wouldn't have believed you if you would have told them that the job was dead end. Maybe they would have thought you were trying to throw them off the track.
Yes, that's what they would have thought. Morris, of course, thought I would betray him by giving those two appointments away. I told him at that. You don't know what future developments are going to be.
That's right.
When future developments occur, you're very grateful. But the attitude you take is out of my hands. I can live no matter what happens.
I didn't always believe that.
I've lost every position I ever held. Around a hospital job lasted 7 months. And Dr. Noyes was very sorry when I had to turn in my resignation. He took me up to Worcester and recommended me for a much better job. I had allowed myself to be overconfident. I had allowed myself to be alone on a back ward with a catatonic peacock in a stupor who had been a heavyweight prize fighter. He suddenly came out of his stupor and said, I'm going to knock you down and stop you to death. My left arm was very good, so my right arm at that time. I leaned helplessly against the wall with my left hand, knowing I'd use it as a spring. He slowly walked up to me, eyeing me carefully for the kill. I got close enough, using this left arm as a spring. I threw my entire weight behind my right fist into his bread basket and knocked him down. And our loud room had the room locked before he could get up. But when you hit a patient roll down, you've resigned.
When you've gotten yourself in that kind of corner, you got to resign.
And at Worcester, it's an ideal job, but after 4 years as director, got jealous of me. They tried various methods of harassment to make me quit. I don't harass easily. They reduced my salary by 25%, but I didn't notice that. And finally, after a rumor he was going to put me on the custodial service, I didn't pay any attention to that rumor. But I knew the hospital couldn't afford to put me on the custodial service. So he made an appointment to see me at 4 o'clock in my office. So I arranged for the chair that he would sit in to be in a certain position. And I took a crayon and wrote on the wall, "Many, many take a upharsin."
Many, many what?
Take a upharsin. In the Bible, that's the handwriting on the wall. And he knew his Bible.
Uh-huh.
He sat down, comfortably looked up, and there was many, many take a upharsin on the wall. And he knew I was laughing at him. So he made a few remarks about the weather, and then he hunted up a job equal and better than his, at a higher salary. I lost that as a result of summer sickness and development of allergies. And big loss because I lost sleep for ships. And the directorship of psychiatric training and research. I was the second highest paid man in fishing.
Huh.
I had serum sickness, for which I had to take anti-tetanus serum. And we may be unable to live in Michigan. I had to leave everything behind me and come to Arizona. I took a job in the state hospital at a third of my salary. And 7 months later, the Board of Control fired the whole staff, including the nurses. It's what they call football. Having lost every job so far, I decided to go in private practice. And so I gave up all thought of teaching, all thought of experimentation, all thought of publishing, going to private practice full time. I wound up half-time private practice, half-time teaching, half-time experimenting, half-time publishing, half-time enjoying life.
Are you glad that you went into private practice?
Oh, yes.
Has it turned out nice for you?
It turned out very nicely. The other chap was hired the same time I was. Came to visit in April when discharges occurred. He went to practice in Phoenix. And in August, that chap came to see me. And he complained bitterly because from April to August, he'd seen only 13 patients. I didn't tell him I'd seen 26 patients that week. Of course, when I went into private practice, the Maricopa County Medical Society, some psychiatrists were afraid of my reputation. Well, they questioned my fitness.
Oh.
Disregarding the fact that I've been a professor of psychiatry. And so when they put me on 6-year probationary membership, I told the society where to go.
Good for you.
And my friend said, but you'll be driven out of Phoenix. You'll starve to death. I didn't. I can trust patient referral.
That's for sure.
And I got patient pearls.
I started a private practice 2 years ago, and I see people only in their homes. I couldn't afford an office at the time, and I found that to be very, very exciting, very challenging.
Yeah.
Always new. See people on their own, in their own place, in their own environment.
And they're more secure there.
Easier to do trance work and all kinds of things.
That's right. Of course you were told you'd fail.
Pardon me?
You were told by others you'll starve to death.
Yeah. You don't make much money that way.
I know some friends looked up at my office in my home. And this kind of an office, you'll starve to death.
You haven't.
No. My 8 children have collected 14 college degrees, and they married 14 more. You know, Tabby went to practice the same time I did. You know, it was a great big house, a great big mortgage on it. I think he owed on a car, too.
He what?
He owed on a car. And a very expensive office.
Yeah.
I think it was the man in the office, not the office.
Yeah.
I know a New York millionaire came to see me, came into my office on Cypress Street, and Brown said, "This is the crummiest office I have ever seen." I said, "Why are you here?" He said, "For psychiatric help." I said, "I am the psychiatrist." I had him as a patient, his wife, his son, and his daughter-in-law. I was a psychiatrist. We met on the floor of one, a psychiatrist. Got an old table, a mismatched chair for the psychiatrist. Hey, boy. And I've taught my children to take the same attitude. All your life you have to take your chances. If you absorb yourself in fears, anxieties, you won't see the good opportunities that become real. Both Eva and Bessie, if they had looked around, could have seen the coming change.
And waited.
And they could have waited, but no, they didn't look around. And my youngest daughter she took 3 years to go through college with an A- average.
She's pretty.
And she applied to medical school.
What's her name?
Christina
With a K or a C?
K. Christina Karen.
My sister's name was Kristen. Kristin. That's Norwegian. But that's Norwegian spelling, isn't it?
You know, when she got her bachelor's degree in 3 years, an A- average, I told her, no medical school in her right mind will accept you. You're too young, you're too pretty, too intelligent, too ambitious. She didn't believe me until all of our rejections came in. Then she said, well, I'll embarrass the medical schools. So he got her master's degree in her fourth year of college with an A- average. So she was accepted to Tucson for a 3-year condensed medical course, where you have to complete the first 2 years in 1 year.
Uh-huh. She was good at that, huh?
She completed 1 year, very satisfactorily at Tucson, in the first 2 years. Our fiancé was serving a residency at Columbia, Missouri, at the University Hospital. So she flew there and got interviewed by faculty. They agreed to accept a third-year transfer to the 4-year school. And she interviewed the Tucson faculty, and they agreed. And we gave the Tucson faculty a letter from the University of Missouri, seeing how favorably impressed they were with her. And both schools saw a good active public relationship. I went to Missouri. Now, she actually spent 2 years and 9 months in medical school.
Oh, my goodness. That must be a record. She knows how to study. Sounds like she really knows how to study.
She said, going to medical school and taking 2 years in one means hard work. I'm going to learn to crochet. Because you can't be tense and crochet. And while I study, I'll crochet.
Very good idea. I've been in graduate school for 3 years now, and I've got another year and a half. And I'm in an independent school. I do everything on my own. I don't have any classes. I have to set my own deadlines. And it's hard. Very difficult. I procrastinate a lot. Find all kinds of things that else have to be done. Mow the lawn, fix the car, play with the kids, love my wife.
Now, Christina's philosophy was, I want an MD degree, why waste time? She's 25 years old when she has her 3 degrees.
25 with all those degrees, huh? BA, MD, and MS or MA?
BS, MS, MD. At the University of Missouri. Were so favorably impressed by her husband and her that they pulled strings to get them as a residence together.
That's really nice.
Because otherwise, had he gotten a residency in the usual way, she might have been sent to Arizona or New York or Florida. And her husband would be with her, would have to give up his residency and get one in her neighborhood. Now, get things over with. Then you're in position for the next best thing. Even though it doesn't come right away, you'll be ready and waiting.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for fear of airplane, girl that I had my sister adopt while I was still in medical school. She and her husband lived in a small town of Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. Her husband went through the war in Europe, came back to Beaver Dam. And their daughter went to California to go to college. And it took them a couple of years to build up their courage to fly to California. And then to fly from Berkeley down to Sacramento down to Phoenix to see me. I've gone at least 500,000 miles. Worst thing that ever happened to me on the plane was I got bumped off the plane. But they put me on another plane that reached my destination sooner than I would have otherwise.
That's funny.
I fell and broke my foot one winter. The orthopedist examined it, put a walking cast on it, and said, "You're going to be laid out for several months." I said, "You may be an orthopedist and know yourself, but you don't know me. I'm lecturing in Boston next week. My crutches were tremendous value. I was supposed to have a long wait in Chicago Midway base. So I sat in the main lobby with my crutches in full view, on each side standing up.
A what?
One crutch on each side of my chair standing up. Attracted attention. They got me out of that main lobby, that's good. They got to New York. And all places, particular places of Boston. So I stood sitting in the main lobby with my crutch in full view. They got me to Boston in a hurry. At that time, airlines were worried about people being afraid.
They were,
So they got me out of sight.
When we flew in here Sunday night, it was real stormy, you know. It was about 70-mile-an-hour winds. And it was probably the most exciting flight that I've ever had. It was probably the roughest one I've ever been on, but it also was very, very exciting. I was very surprised at myself. I was surprised. And when the pilot put the plane on the ground, everyone stood up and clapped.
He did a skillful job.
And I really appreciated how he did that. And I wanted to meet him.
Yes?
Dr. Erickson, just wanted to let you know we were waiting. We're back.
All right. I was on a flight from Michigan to Boston. It has an air pocket. Our plane fell 50 feet. The most wonderful experience I ever had.
The most what?
Wonderful experience.
It's like as a kid you used to go, your dad used to drive over the roads in the back, and you'd sit in the back seat and
Bounce up and down.
right. It was a real good feeling. We used to want him to go on that road so we could do that.
So I learned what an air pocket really is. And it was fascinating to see the scared faces all around me.
Mm-hmm. What is an air pocket?
An area of low pressure surrounded by high pressure.
The density of the air is different?
You're flying along one air density, you come to lesser density, plane goes right down.
Mm-hmm. Till it hits the other density, huh?
Mm-hmm. Better than any roller coaster effect. Why should you be afraid? You're killed on the way back to Chicago, you won't know about it.
I think of my family. I think of the people that would be left. Those are the people that have to suffer, not me.
Are taking more risks in a taxi cab in a car than you are in a plane.
Probably true.
Are you afraid to ride a car? That's riskier than a plane.
I should be more frightened of driving than I am. My sister was killed in an automobile. I would think that I would be frightened, but I'm not.
Well, look at it honestly. How many violent deaths occur in any one family?
How many violent? I don't know.
Hello? Hello? Yes? What do you want?
You were saying how many violent deaths occur in a family?
In any one family.
Maybe, I mean, you're talking about a nuclear family or the extended family?
In a nuclear family.
Oh, I don't know. The chances aren't very high, I don't think. I mean,
There's been one in your family.
yes, right.
Or your chances of two.
Not very good, probably.
That's right. Yes, Erickson was a car accident. She called home. Old son took the call. He said, I'll be late coming home. I was in a traffic accident and the car was totaled. And Bert said, are you hurt? She said, no, not in the least. He said, now the odds are in your favor. Which is right.
Yeah. I've often tried to think of it that way, but yeah, I was thinking it wouldn't happen twice. It just didn't seem very logical.
It isn't.
I tried to put it in relationship to God, but my concept of God had been shattered. My Sunday school sense of God had been shattered when my sister was killed, so I didn't have that to fall back on any longer.
All back on probability. American meeting visiting us said 8 children living in a city attended there for a traffic accident, at least one traffic accident, are excellent. 8 children in a city attended for one delinquent are excellent. Now Robert was run over by a truck, but he's still alive. Well, made full recovery of all traffic accidents for the Erickson family. I've been exhausted.
Did everyone thank Robert for his for having done it himself?
And as for delinquency, they're all over 21, so that's out.
They can't be delinquents anymore. Well, thank you for your straight-ahead thinking on this.
You simply are willing to take all attention, but you do not intentionally build up hazards such as psychosomatic problems.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to eliminate that out of my life. It's been 3 years of being frightened by my own perseverations. So you think I ought to just get into my being frightened and enjoy my fear?
Enjoy them as a legitimate part, but don't overeat.
It's good advice. Well, I really hate to leave you. It's been I feel like I've been visiting my relatives. You remind me of my my Danish relatives. I felt very much at home. Thank you.
All squareheads are alike.
I'm still curious. Just one last moment. What's your mother's ancestry? You said she's a Yankee.
Ballad Yankee.
But her name was Minor?
Mm-hmm.
And she was from, whereabouts in Europe did the family originally come from?
English.
English?
We think we have not absolute proof. Yeah, her ancestor came over on Mayflower.
You didn't talk too much about her. She must have been a fascinating person. You talk more about your father. Anyway, I just was...
I can imagine what my mother was like. At the age of 17, I ran across a fascinating poem.
A poem?
Poem. She saved it. And at that age, my father had been nominally adopted by my great-grandmother. And he ran the farm for my great-grandmother. And he sheared the sheep. My mother washed the wool, carded it, and spun it.
This is in New England?
No, in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, 17th she found that poem. And he washed and carded and spun that wool my father had sheared. And when she was 22, my father proposed to her. He'd always been regarded as his girl since he was 16 and she was 14. When he proposed to her, he reached in her blouse pocket and took out a miniature Bitson.
A miniature what?
Bitson. Because when you refuse a man, refuse his proposal of marriage, it was called giving him the Bitson.
Okay.
He reached in her blouse pocket and took out a little mitten handed to him. He went home to my grandmother, or to my great-grandmother. Couldn't sleep that night, paced the floor. Next day, I went to my mother's home, and I said, I didn't ask you for a mission. I want. Looking at the page of all the farmers went to the slums, the blacksmith shop, the stores. Finally, we stepped up to an old white-haired farmer driving a ox cart. Said, don't you want a nice bright boy on your farm? The old man questioned him at length. The boy said his name was Charlie Roberts. He was an orphan. He had no home, no problem. He came to Chicago. And he wanted to work on the farm. Finally, the old man took him home. On the way home, the old farmer told him, you send a cart boy. Gotta see my son-in-law on business. And a little girl in a red flannel dress peeked out from behind a maple tree. And Charlie said, whose girl are you? She coyly said, I'm my papa's. He said, you're my girl now. And 8 years later, they were engaged.
And that was your mother, huh?
I took Betty to meet my parents. Upon meeting my mother in the house, he said, when you and Dad quarreled about something, what happened? My mother said, I said what I had to say, and then I said no more. And he went out in the yard and asked the same question of my father. He said, I said what I had to say, and I shut my mouth. And she said, well, how was the quarrel settled? Sometimes one, sometimes the other had their way.
What?
Sometimes one, sometimes the other had their way. Once in the Sierra Nevada mountains, my mother was working in the garden, and a man known to kill from ambush. Yes, my mother on a quarrel was going to be at 6 o'clock that afternoon. She instantly told him he was returning from Davis, Kenya. The man said, you'll be a widow at 6 o'clock. When the mother was in the house, get the rifle, shoot out with him. But felt very sorry when he got outside the cabin, because he could hide behind any boulder there and pick her off. So he decided to go back, take care of the kids. At 6 o'clock, my father didn't arrive. 6:15, he didn't. He was always exceedingly prompt. 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:30, 9 o'clock, he still didn't come. And Bad Man Sawyer was well known to shoot from ambush. Mm-hmm. And my father had angered Bad Man Sawyer. A few minutes after 9, my father came in. My mother took the food off the stove where she was keeping it warm, put it on the table. He said, how do you happen to be so late? He said, I got lost and I had to come home by way of Florence Canyon. He burst into tears and said, oh, I'm so glad. And he said, you're so glad, woman. What on earth is wrong with you? He told him. The father said, put the grub back on the stove. I take the 6-shooter, and I'll go out and have it out with Sawyer. You return in a few minutes looking foolish. He said, Bad Man Sawyer didn't wait for me to show up. He left a long time ago. In fact, you've never seen him in that area again.
Huh.
When I asked my mother what made her angriest in her whole life, then one day I came from the garden, and you and your sister were sitting on the floor. I called up rattlesnake, looking at you. And that made me so mad. I grabbed the broom. I swept Mr. Rattlesnake out of the cabin so fast he never knew what happened. She always called him Mr. Rattlesnake.
Mr. Rattlesnake.
She gave respect for her respect was due.
That's right, that's right, that's right. How long did your mom live?
Till 94.
Oh my goodness. That's great.
My father till 97 and a half.
Oh, that's fantastic. I hope you live that long.
My father had a massive coronary at 80. Taken to the hospital unconscious. Doctor told my sister, I remember your father was an old man, he worked hard all his life. So don't expect too much. And she said, I just snorted at him. She said, you don't know my dad. My dad recovered consciousness. Asked him, like, what happened? Doctor said, don't worry, Mr. Erickson. In 2 or 3 months, you'll be home as good as new. My father said, 2 or 3 months, my foot. You mean I've got to wait a whole week? A second massive coronary, 85. Recovery consciousness, same doctor was I. Father said, now what happened? He was so my father was lovably wasted. 2 days later, he had an emergency abdominal operation, 9 feet of intestine removed. As he came out of the anesthesia recovery room, he asked the nurse, now what happened? She told him. He said, instead of a week, it's going to be 10 days. His third coronary was at 89.
Oh my goodness, what a horse he was.
He recovered. He said, is it the same thing, doctor? Doctor said, yes. This gave me a bad habit, waiting a week at a time. The fourth coronary occurred at 93. Recovered consciousness of that same poor doctor. And my father said, honest dollar, I thought the fourth would carry me all. Now I'm beginning to lose faith in the fifth. At my mother's funeral, he said, it's nice to have been married to one woman for 73 years. Of course, it'd be nicer if it were 74. But in this world, you can't have everything. When I die, I hope it'll be a very happy time. And at 97 and a half, he and two of my sisters planned a weekend of traveling around the old farming community. When plans were completed, it went out the car. My father said, oh, I forgot my hat. It didn't come out in reasonable length of time. I said, this is it. I went in, and Dad was dead. Massive cerebral hemorrhage. Heart attacks couldn't get him for a massive cerebral hemorrhage. You take life as it comes. You enjoy it. You have to earn your happiness. And for troubles, that'll find you. Don't worry about that. Devote yourself to finding your happiness and earning it and enjoying it. And let your troubles catch up to you if they can.
I like that.
All right, tell the guys to come in.
Okay. All right.